Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and start with quarterback. Justin, who do you think has the edge?
I think that New England has the edge at quarterback. I know Matt Ryan has been on fire this postseason. I don't think he's thrown an interception the entire playoffs, but when it comes down to it, you can't bet against experience. Brady's going for his 5th title. It's his 7th time playing there, and I got to give him the edge.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on this one, Justin. Even though the stats for Matt Ryan might be pretty impressive, I will take the experience. Going back to last Super Bowl, we remember Peyton Manning playing very well in that experience aspect of it, and also Cam Newton was the MVP that year, so I mean kind of the same situation from that standpoint. So I think I'm going to go with experience just like it reigned very prominent last Super Bowl.
Matt Ryan, arguably the hottest quarterback in the league. A lot of people's MVP. You guys still think Tom Brady and the experience? I like the pick personally. Tom Brady, 4 Super Bowls, going for a record 5th. Hard to bet against the experience. Troy?
Yeah, I like Matt Ryan in this one just solely based on this year. Obviously, he's kind of coasted through the playoffs a little bit, and we saw that kind of like you were saying with Cam Newton, and we saw how that ended up for him in the Super Bowl. But I just think this is a different Matt Ryan we're seeing this year, and I think he's got the power to get it done.
Absolutely. We're now going to move to the backfield. Justin, who do you got?
I like New England, and again, I know that Atlanta has a lot of talent back there, but LeGarrette Blount led the league in touchdowns, and in addition to that, they have Dion Lewis back and healthy. He took a kick to the house this postseason already, and they also have James White, who's a great receiving threat out of the backfield.
Yeah, I'd like the pick, but I'd have to disagree with you on this one. I like Atlanta just based on the 2 running back combo with Tevin Coleman and Devonta Freeman. I like the aspect of receiving and rushing. They both have combined over 800 yards this year and 5 touchdowns during the regular season, so they can do it all. And Devonta Freeman, as you see it right there, he had an outstanding season last year, and he's continuing it this year. So I just think they're very dangerous, especially behind that offensive line.
Yeah, for the most part, a pretty similar grouping, having the receiving out the backfield with the exception of LeGarrette Blount. I like both of these. I feel like this is kind of a coin toss, so I could see either side. I think Atlanta does just have the edge. Just the stats didn't lie, seeing how they've been playing. That offense just on another level. I don't think in that regard New England can compete.
Devonta Freeman, the only running back in the league last 2 seasons to have 1,500 scrimmage yards and 10 touchdowns. Meanwhile, on the other side, LeGarrette Blount led the league in touchdowns this year. This could be a very key battle in the game. Let's now move to the receiving core. Justin, I think I know who you're going to go with.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Atlanta on this one. It's hard to go against the receiving core that has Julio Jones. He's easily the best receiver in football right now. And I think outside of that, I saw a stat the other week. It said Matt Ryan has hit, 14 people for touchdown passes this season. Obviously, it's not all receivers, but when it comes to threats through the air, you got to give the edge to Atlanta.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on this one. Obviously, Julio is having the best year of his career, but you don't forget about Mohamed Sanu and Gabriel. Both great wide receivers. Both have over 600 yards in the regular season, and both have caught a ton of touchdowns from Matt Ryan. I believe 4 from Sanu and 6 from Gabriel. So that's huge for them. They don't only have one piece, which I think is why Julio Jones had such a big year this year. They've not double covered him as much. So that's been huge, and obviously Matt Ryan's benefited from that. So I have to give the edge to Atlanta in this one.
I really like the depth of the New England receiving core. Tom Brady will make anyone a target. He made Chris Hogan into a very serviceable, a Buffalo Bill throwaway into a serious #1. But that being said, Atlanta probably with Sanu and Jones would both probably be the top receiver on New England. I like the pick. Troy, you have anything to add?
Yeah, just like you guys were saying, super versatile offense. So many people, so many of the receivers, tight ends, whoever might be able to, get a touchdown pass from Matt Ryan. I just think the way he's been playing, the receivers are, I would root against them. I don't think the Patriots should, double cover. Some people are suggesting they'll double cover Julio. I think let Julio have his big game, focus on everybody else. So it'll be an interesting matchup.
Like Justin said, a lot of threats, not just from the receiving core, but from tight ends, Tevin Coleman out of the backfield. A lot of weapons for Atlanta. Let's now move to the offensive line. Justin,
I'm also going with Atlanta on this one, and it's a tough one because both teams are very strong in this regard. I think you need to have a good line to get to the Super Bowl, but I do think that New England was exploited a little bit by both Houston and Pittsburgh. I think they showed some trouble protecting Brady, and I think that Atlanta has 2 weeks of film to watch and scheme to get after Brady in the same way.
I like New England in this one just based on the fact that I think the running game is not going to be as pivotal in this Super Bowl. I think it's going to be very reliant on the passing game, and I think Atlanta does have a better rushing blocking, but as far as from the pass standpoint, New England has only allowed 24 sacks this year compared to Atlanta's 37. So I mean, the huge difference right there. Obviously, they're protecting Tom Brady, and he's going to have time to throw downfield.
Absolutely. I like Atlanta's offensive line, though, in this game. I think Alex Mack was the signing of the offseason. He's really stabilized that Atlanta line at the center position. Jake Matthews has really come into his own, a former top pick in the draft. So I like Atlanta's in this game. Let's now shift sides of the ball. Let's go to defense. And Aaron, we'll have you start this time. Let's start with the front seven. Who do you think has the edge?
I think it's Atlanta solely because of Vic Beasley. I think he's an amazing player. He's had a breakout year. I believe this year he's had 15.5 sacks and 6 forced fumbles, so really major key right there, to quote DJ Khaled. And then you also have Dion Jones, who's a linebacker, but, I mean, you wouldn't be able to know it by the stats. He has 3 interceptions this year and 2 pick sixes, so he's really played big for them. And they are going to miss the man out of Iowa, represent Adrian Claiborne, in the Super Bowl, but I do think that they have the edge just because they're linebackers, and obviously the defensive ends will have to step it up to try to get some pressure on Tom Brady. But we saw last year with the Broncos, they just put so much pressure on Cam Newton in the Super Bowl, and that turned out very well for them. So I think that's going to be huge in this game.
I'm also going with Atlanta for a lot of the same reasons. I remember when Vic Beasley was drafted a couple years back, I was upset because I wanted him to fall to the Saints. I knew that Atlanta got a very good steal with him. They have a fast defense. I think it's going to be unlike anything that New England has seen. I think they're going to get around the edge, put a lot of pressure on Brady, sort of like what I hit to when talking about the offensive line play. I think that they're going to force the mistakes that could potentially sway this game in their favor.
Right, and like you were saying, you're talking about Vic Beasley. Obviously, very quiet, 15.5 sacks. Like you didn't really hear about him, throughout the year, but really taking it to him. And like you were saying as well, Justin, I don't know if New England's exactly ready for that, but I also think it comes down to like how they're set up to play. So with the Falcons, their defense is very set up. They're built to play with a lead. If they're unable to get that lead out front, I think they're going to struggle if they're trying to play catch up.
I like Malcolm Brown of New England. I like their linebacking core. Rob Ninkovich in particular tends to have big games when they matter most, but I am going to go with Atlanta as well. They just get after the quarterback so well, and if there is a way to beat Tom Brady, it is to apply the pressure, and I think Dan Quinn is going to dial that up in abundance, so I'm going to go with Atlanta as well. Now, Aaron, let's shift to the secondary, the back end of that defense. Who do you think has the edge?
I think it's New England. Obviously, Malcolm Butler's the stud back there. He had the huge interception 2 years ago against Seattle in the Super Bowl. They also have Patrick Chung, who's the wily veteran, hard hitter back there. So, I mean, they have a lot of experience back there, especially in huge games. Obviously, Atlanta hasn't had a lot of big game experience so far. They have one of the youngest teams in the NFL as far as the defense is concerned. So I think the advantage goes to New England on this one.
I will agree with Aaron. I will also say the advantage lies with New England for obviously a lot of the same reasons. Malcolm Butler kind of anchors the secondary. He has a lot of experience. He had the biggest play that a lot of us have ever seen. They have a lot of experience back there. They've been in big games. They've had to cover some very good receivers this postseason as well. If you look at the fact that they had to get through Hopkins with Houston and Antonio Brown and all the weapons that the Steelers have, I think that New England is very battle-tested in the secondary.
I agree with what you're saying. I think they are super battle-tested, and they have lots of experience, like you're saying, with Chung and McCourty. Obviously, seasoned veterans ready to play in these big moments. But Atlanta's secondary and defense as a whole kind of underrated, especially in the latter half of the season. Lots of takeaways started to build up towards the end of the season, so I wouldn't put it past them to have a big impact in this game.
Atlanta's secondary, very young. We saw them mature, I think, as the season went on.
Right.
Neal and Collins back there, playmakers, but young playmakers. This is going to be the biggest game of their career, obviously. I like New England's experience back there. You mentioned Chung, McCourty, Malcolm Butler. It's an experienced secondary. I think they make enough plays for New England. Let's now shift to maybe the less heralded position, the special teams. They don't get a lot of love, but they can win you and lose you games. Ask the Patriots, Adam Vinatieri. He has won them a couple of Super Bowls. Who do you think has the advantage among the two teams in this game?
Yeah, less heralded and definitely one of the most tough to pick for me at least. I'm going to give it to New England just based on the efficiency and the consistency. So last year they were ranked 5th in the NFL in special teams efficiency, and this year they were 7th. So really stable from that standpoint, and obviously Stephen Gostkowski is one of the most consistent kickers in the NFL, albeit Matt Bryant has had a fantastic year. He's been the most accurate kicker in the NFL this year and #1 in fantasy points, so shout out to him for that. But I will give the edge to New England this year just based on experience again. I think it reigns very prominent.
Well, I also have to give the edge to New England mostly because I took Gostkowski in the 7th round of my fantasy draft and got a lot of heat for it, so I have to stand with that now. I think if I have a kick to win the Super Bowl and it's Matt Bryant or Gostkowski, like Aaron said, Bryant's a great kicker, but I think Gostkowski's got ice in his veins. Also, as I mentioned, Lewis has took a kickback this postseason, so they're explosive, and I think that the edge goes to them.
Right, so adding Dion Lewis back, definitely a big help. As you said, he already returned to the house. Very explosive guy. Just wanted to ask real quick, how did that fantasy season shape up?
I got to the title game, but with injuries to Gronk and C.J. Anderson, it was too much to overcome.
Yeah, okay, so Gostkowski can help you out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, the kickers are too phenomenal. Like you were saying, Matt Bryant, one of the best in recent, the past couple of years. Gostkowski overall, like since he's been in the league, one of the best. But I like the explosiveness of New England. But this season, I like what Matt Bryant and the special teams of Atlanta's been doing.
Last but not least, let's go on to coaching. We have Dan Quinn, who on one side has made the Super Bowl in some capacity 3 of the last 4 years, versus Bill Belichick, the legend, obviously. Who do you guys think is going to have a better game plan ready for this weekend?
All respect to Dan Quinn. I didn't think this was a competition at all. I think Bill Belichick's the greatest NFL coach of all time. I mean, he took the Browns to an above 500 record, so that's saying a lot. And he has reached 7 Super Bowls, counting this one, which just set a record, passing Shula of the Miami Dolphins. So that was a fantastic accomplishment for him. I just think he's so experienced and obviously so talented. I think a lot of receivers and a lot of players in the New England Patriots on the roster are contributed as products of the system, so to speak. So I think obviously that's much attribution to him. So I think obviously the edge goes in New England here.
I have to agree. Second that one, New England. First of all, I'd like to say that Atlanta's game plan, I think, was already misplaced at the airport. We don't know whether or not Bill Belichick had anything to do with that just yet, but I am giving the edge to him. It is his 7th Super Bowl. I think you made a very good point about making playmakers out of putting people in the system. Like earlier mentioned, Chris Hogan, the Buffalo Bills didn't want him, and they haven't beaten New England for the past 16 seasons in that division. So I think that he always has them ready to go, and he gets the most out of his players, and that's why he's the better coach in this situation.
Yeah, like you guys are saying, I don't know. With all respect to Dan Quinn, the experience just, it doesn't lie. Obviously, Bill Belichick's been here a long time, been to many Super Bowls, many postseason games. He knows what he's doing. He's the definition of a seasoned veteran in the coaching staff. I'd give it to him, but I am curious to see how Dan Quinn handles this.
First Super Bowl. You never know. Great coordinator. Managed to turn Atlanta from a loser into a winner.
Right.
But Bill Belichick, greatest coach ever, probably.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for your picks.
Absolutely.
Before we
Thanks for having
go,
us.
who do we have winning the Super Bowl? Justin?
I'm going to have to go with Atlanta because I saw them get after Aaron Rodgers, and they're
Okay.
going to get after Brady.
That's respectable. I'm going with New England. I think Tom Brady gets his 5th Super Bowl.